Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. Episode number 152.
Wow.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah. Morning, Bill.
How are you this morning?
Fine.
Today, Peter, I'm good. Today, we're going to talk about how much do I sell for?
The payout.
How much do I sell for? Good old Peter. One track mind.
The payout.
How much money can I get in?
Oh, sure. You're not in it for the money. You're in for the glory.
Sure. Which, by the way, if you have enough money, you can buy glory.
That's the point.
All right, here we go. The description. Peter.
Yes.
Let me clear my throat.
me.
Is it possible you have a conceptual blind spot holding you back by simply not knowing how much to sell your property for once you buy it? Are you worried that once you buy a property and have your name all over it, it won't be worth what you paid for it? Perhaps the single biggest barrier after worrying about how to pay for the property, because that's the number one barrier, is how to pay for the property, right? So perhaps the single biggest barrier after worrying about how to pay for a property is how much is it worth after you buy it. Truth is, you can read, watch videos, listen to podcasts, etc., all you want. But if you don't know how much to sell for, you're dead. Without doubt, this tiny little bullet could sink the Titanic. So, we need to resolve this conflict as soon as possible so you can get the show on the road and fill your pockets. In today's podcast, we're going to give you some solid, grounded, tested, and proven ways to stay safe and keep your profits high when buying extremely good deals.
All right.
How's that?
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. And I have to give Emma my phone because did you hear it beeping in the background?
Beep.
She's walking around pacing. Dad has his phone. Oh, no. All right, before I start today, we were on vacation. So the last couple podcasts, you may not know this because Emma did such a freaking amazing job while we were gone. We didn't skip a beat. She put it up on Facebook.
She used holograms and everything. It looked like we were really here.
Holograms, you're not. So, I was able to step back. I actually listened to my coaching group did a call without me, so I was able to listen to them without me on the call because I don't usually go listen to the coaching calls.
No, you did it
because everything's recorded and I was there and I have notes and I never listened to them. That was an experience.
Hey, Bill, was it like group therapy?
Yeah, it was an experience.
They did good. I listened to a lot of it.
They did do good, but I learned a lot from listening to that call. I have to listen to one of my own calls to kind of compare it. And I also listen to a couple of our podcasts, which I don't normally do because we're here. And here's what I decided. So I'm going to step up on the arrogant, pompous ladder.
Oh, I thought we were doing less of that.
No.
More.
No, I poured it on. We give a lot of good stuff away on this podcast, especially recently. Now, the beginning of our series of 150, we were kind of sucky at it, but nowadays we give a lot. So from now on, every podcast we're going to start, and you need to help me with this, we're going to ask for reviews. We need reviews.
Oh.
So please go somewhere and give us a review. Wherever you listen to us, go give us a review because we deserve it. Because we give the house away on these podcasts. Okay, so I want exchange. I'm calling all the troops. I'm calling all the parties. I want reviews because it takes me. You put a
lot into this.
It takes me the first 2.5 hours just to write the podcast.
Yeah, the first ones we did the hour, and we just like, what do you want to talk about? I don't know, we'll make it up as we go, and they're okay. We know what to talk about. But you spend a couple of hours.
Now I spend a couple hours, plus thousands of dollars of equipment. Plus I've got Emma sitting behind there's a lot.
I drove in a half an hour to do this,
That's right.
And we do other work, and we go back and run around.
We talk about it. It's a lot of work. So please go give us a review.
And we don't get paid for this. The pay is say thank you.
Yeah.
Or say you guys suck.
Or we suck so we can fix it.
Yeah, or like, could you do more of this, less of that?
So,
but we're not going to ask for. You can't say, can you ask less for reviews? We're not going to do that.
No. All right. So let's start with selling a house fast. Okay, because that's what everybody wants to do. Right? Yeah. One of the most common fears folks have about getting into the real estate investing arena or business is the fear of being able to the fear of being unable to sell a house and somehow get stuck with it.
Yeah, I was with one of my family private lenders. Well, what if you don't sell it?
Right.
Look around. People live in houses. Nobody wants houses anymore.
Well, we're going to talk about that today. So
yeah.
And honestly, I can understand this because fear and anxiety is probably meaning you and I, trying to help people, number one barrier of entry. They don't have confidence. They don't have confidence that once they buy a house, it's worth more once they buy it. Now, pay attention to what I just said there because this is major and we're going to cover this. They don't have confidence that it's worth more once they buy it.
Right.
In other words, they don't know their added value. And we're going to talk about that today.
Okay.
All right. So simply put, beginners don't have enough facts to overcome the fear and the anxiety. That's all it is. It's an unknown. And by the way, my definition, and we've talked about this before, of anxiety is, this is what I think the definition of anxiety is not knowing how the future is going to turn out. So what's happening is you're looking at the future and you're not sure what's going to happen.
Sure, no, that's perfect. That's what it is. Like,
right.
What happens tomorrow when I go to work and talk to the boss? What's gonna? But it's the future. You look around right now, you're okay the next few minutes, but yeah, it's future.
And anxiety, like you got a $1 million deal or something like that, and you're waiting for the answer from your seller, right? And you're trying not to spend the money in your head. It could create anxiety, right?
Yep.
Or here's another one: a landlord. You're wondering if the guy's going to pay you at the end of the month, right? It's you're not sure of the future, right? So the only way to handle that is to have confidence that you know what's going to happen, which is data. Okay, I have to sneeze, so here we go. Oh my goodness, I know where that came from. So, excuse me. So it's a lack of confidence to predict. It's not anxiety. It's not fear. It's the lack of confidence to predict. Okay. So your predictability or your prediction device is off. And the only way that you could predict correctly is to have not data, but the senior datums that count. They're the datums that are going to get things done. Now, what makes a senior datum in my head? Senior datum is you apply it, and it almost gets the same result every time.
Yeah, so these are the important points.
Right.
All right. There's a lot of facts running around, but you have some underlying, kind of like laws.
Right.
Right? And if you could see it as a law, like a natural thing.
Right.
Or something that's been tested over and over and over and over.
Gravity. I don't have to explain it.
No.
I don't have to tell you why it is.
Yeah.
But if I pick up a pencil 6 inches off the table and let it go, it falls 1,000, 1 million, 10 trillion times. Right? It's going to do the same thing every time. I don't have to explain it.
No.
It just is. Right? And when you start observing those things after doing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of deals, right? Or hundreds and hundreds of conversations and thousands of offers. After a while, I just started noticing some of these observable facts.
Right.
You know, like when I say to somebody, you know, what would have to happen for me to buy your house today? And every single time it produces a result. Is it the result I want? I don't know. But the result that it produces is we don't have to dink around anymore.
Yeah.
Wondering if we got a deal.
Yeah, you find out what's really going on with the other person and if you can do that or not.
It's just, and the problem is that the simplicity of it is so simple that you think that it won't work. But simplicity is what keeps things perpetuated, because you can do them over and over. You can remember them and do them over and over and over again and constantly get the same result. Okay? However, if you're not a beginner, right, and the fear still remains a problem, and you're still suffering from lack of data or maybe lack of some processes too, right, you're still going to have these problems. So one thing that I had told you early on, and I don't talk about it too much because it's not a good PR move, public relations move, you know, a good thing to say.
Well, then don't say it, Bill.
No, because I have to tell the truth. The one thing that I told you in the beginning is that as far as I'm concerned, because you were talking about being elevated as a rookie, and I told you until you've done 10 deals, there's no sense in talking about it. Right? I still believe that. I believe it's more like 20 deals. You know, because at 20 deals, you'll start grooving in and your processes will start leveling out. You'll start getting efficient, right? So does it take somebody a month to do that, a year to do that, 5 years to do that, 10 years to do that, a lifetime? How long does it take them? Depends on what kind of deals. So you have to make that decision early on in your career, right? Depends on what kind of deals you're doing. All right.
Well, they're all quite different. Is the truth of the matter.
Well, they aren't really, and that's what my point is that when you start putting them in buckets and you start segmenting them, it becomes easier to decide. So let's get started. Truth is, selling should be the easiest part of the process. When you're selling a property, that should be the easiest part. In fact, when you came around, one of the things that I needed to handle myself on was, and because you called me to the plate on it, once I would buy a property, get it all fixed up, and put it in the selling mode, I would like almost ignore it. Because it would just be, I'd either put it in my own little system or I'd have a realtor doing something, and I would almost ignore it.
Yeah.
Which I've changed, and it's made a difference. But that's because I believe that the selling process is probably the easiest, not probably, is the easiest portion of the whole process, right? Because it's easy to do show and tell, right? So the first thing I want to cover is what we talk about quite a bit about when you're buying, okay? And what's your strategy? So every house needs this decision. Every prospect suspect call needs this decision. This starts very, very early. If I had to relate this to a human life, I would say this is the conception point. Like, I want a baby. Let's make one.
Okay.
That's the conception point. It's not, the diapers or the pregnancy or the teenage year or the, puberty, or it's not any of that. It's that, or this decision process is that early on the chain. Okay. So here we go. So the two things that you have to decide is one or the other. First of all, what does the seller want? So that's kind of like what's going to motivate the seller to get to the closing. So A, is it you need to buy with all cash, which means you need to have a deep discount and are trying to sell it now with added value. So if you're going to buy at a deep discount, what you need to know is what is your added value. So before you go into the deal, you have to know what your added value is. Now, here's an amazing thing. This is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
The way to make money is to have a product, to have something, a bottle of water, a car, I don't know, a popsicle, whatever.
A service.
But it has to be a completed product. It has to be ready to be sold. Okay? And that's common sense. What most people don't think of is what's somebody willing to exchange for that product. Is that product exchangeable? Which begs to bring us into the conversation, do they want it? Right? So when we talk about added value, we're not just talking about a product, but we're talking about a product that a vast majority of buyers would want. Right?
Sure.
What do they want? Is the added value I'm going to give this house something that people want?
Right.
And price is not always the deciding factor. I'm selling my sister's house right now. Actually, I'm not. Dave is. And Dave's got an unfair advantage because I'm coaching my sister, not Dave. Dave's one of my coaching clients. And he knows it because he went in just recently and did a comp, and she calls me up and she's like, brother, what's up with this guy? And he had convinced her to sell the house for $15,000 or $18,000 less than she should be selling the house for. Right? Now, I know my sister, I know my house, I know the added value.
Well, she put a lot into that house. There's a lot of upgrades and it was really very high quality inside.
It is actually a real estate agent's orgasm.
But I was going to say dream.
Or no, it's not a dream.
Yeah.
It's an orgasm for them. And I mean that politely because there is nothing to apologize for. This house is it's in the right neighborhood. It's in the right school system. It's priced right. She's got a $25,000 kitchen. She's got a beautiful backyard. There's a finished base. There is nothing. And he even said that to her. He says, I cannot find nothing wrong with this house. Nothing. It's like the ideal scene for a real estate.
How does his price come in lower? Is it just a comparison to the other houses in the area?
Yeah, because he's not comparing apples to apples.
Yeah.
Because what other house is perfect?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, around the corner, she has farmhouses and stuff. Her house is like... Anyways, so I suggested she sell for the 15 or 20 grand higher price because we can always come down. I talked her off the cliff, and they put the house on the market 2 days ago. She's had something like 15 showings, and she's got, as of last night, 3 offers, and they were expecting more today.
Nice. And
it was 15 or 20 grand more. The reason why is because the added value was done correctly.
It's like a renovated house.
Right.
Because she did. It's like renovated.
She always renovates.
It's not like the other house in the neighborhood. It's the one
she's always
renovated.
painting a room, doing something.
Yeah.
She's a nut. So that's number one. Number one, you buy at a deep discount and you make sure you know where your added value is. But just don't go in and say, well, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. It has to be added value that is exchangeable to your buyer and it's popular. And we're going to talk about this, okay?
Okay.
So the second way that the second decision you have to make is if it's not bought at a deep discount, right? Then you have to buy it with terms on a terms deal, which simply means that now you're paying monthly payments until you can pay this puppy off.
Right.
So it has to be one or the other. If you don't make that decision, just much like the conception of a child early on, then it'll be a misfit the whole way. Okay, so and the prospect suspect form and the opening calls, which if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, free stuff. That page is the traffic I get on that page is amazing. There are forms, there are forms and scripts and videos on there that are all for free. And I get an amazing amount of reviews from that stuff that we give away.
Yeah, when you think of people who want to do real estate or amateurs who and I know some, they just bought a property, no training. They went to the bank, they put a bunch of money down, tens of thousands. I got a loan, and then they're making a couple $100 a month back, and they think they got something.
Right.
You spend 20 grand to make 200. It's not smart, and they don't have systems to handle the tenants. They're just kind of winging it. I mean, why would you wing it?
Right.
I mean, no one hands you a car and say, "Good luck. Here's a boat. See what happens. You want to learn what you're doing beforehand.
Right.
So this is, but then you wind up on this site for free to get a script.
Yeah, we get scripts. I have
forms, formulas.
Yeah.
You walk in a house like, gee, how much should I pay for? How much will it cost to fix? Let's add it all up. You got formulas.
Yeah. They're
Fast.
on the spot. They were all developed with me sitting in front of a seller, nose to nose, toe to toe, so that if I sit with somebody for 60 minutes, I have all the information I need and I can make the decision. Yes, I'm going to buy this house. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't do contractors. I have all the formulas, and you can go find them on that site. Okay. All right. So let's get to number one. We're going to start with number one today, which is buying at a deep discount.
Yeah.
Okay. So added value. What is it? What is added value? My idea of added value.
Yes.
My idea of added value. Because this is my podcast, so we're going to talk about
Go
me.
ahead. Bill.
No.
Go ahead.
You renovated it.
Mm-hmm.
That's added value. Sometimes.
Well, see, here's a question I have. Because I've seen some of your students go, we should do this, we should do that. I don't like this, I don't like that, and I think we should have this. You think.
We're going to talk about that in about 2 minutes. Let me just get through the list because that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So you renovate it. So that's added value.
Yeah.
Okay. You have it under contract for a deep discount, and you're able to pass that discount on.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to call that wholesaling, but it's the same concept. So in other words, you found a seller, you got the house under contract and a deep discount, and you're able to pass that offer on to somebody.
Before renovating it?
That's
without
added
renovating.
That's just added value. You have it under contract, right? And it's at a deep discount, and you're willing to pass that along to somebody. That's added value to a buyer.
Yeah.
Okay?
Because you bought it right.
Right. Another one. You ready for this? You're going to like this one.
Okay.
You're going to like this one just because of all the stuff we've been talking about recently. Okay. You found an emerging market. Okay. Because this is what we just did, right? You found an emerging market and you bought on the low end, and now there's some appreciation and you're selling it at the higher amount, probably because the environment changed. You know, like some factory came in town and they're adding value. Like we're looking at an apartment building right now. We're talking about how the church across the street is expanding, and they're expecting to have 150 new employees.
Yeah.
So we're looking.
Where are they going to live?
We're looking at an apartment building like almost across the street, right? And we were talking about this morning. It's got 18 units, but they're all one bedrooms, and we're like, who knows that church is across the street going to have 150 new employees in a year? Who knows that? That is actually a micro emerging market.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there are things that you may find out, like factories are coming in. The big indicator is jobs. That's a big indicator.
Right. Jobs are coming.
The other good indicator is that the town is going to do something. Like downtown Meriden some years ago, got a bunch of grants and allocated a bunch of money to restoring the downtown area. And it was specific blocks, right? And bringing jobs in there.
Yeah.
So if you know where that is and you know it's coming, you can buy a property on the low end of the market, and appreciation doesn't need to take years. Appreciation can happen in 6 months. I mean, when you have a hot market, every month could be appreciation.
Sure.
You know, like this month it's worth 180. Next month it's 185. The month after that's 200.
Sure.
You know, it could happen that quick.
Well, people find out that things are coming now.
Right.
They're thinking, oh, I want more now, or it's going to cost more, or you can charge more because things are coming.
Right.
Even if it hasn't happened, it's coming, and it's like the confidence.
Right. So that's another added value that most don't think about. Right. Now, the main point that I'm trying to make here is that you're selling the house in this type of a situation. You're selling the house. Okay. Where in number 2, when we start talking about that, you're going to be selling the financing. So number 1 is all about the house. Okay.
Right.
And let's pretend like we're in a rainstorm and it's pouring rain outside, and we all have our umbrellas on, and we open the door and we come in and we have to check our umbrella. Mm-hmm. So right now we need to check our egos. We just came in from the rainstorm. We need to check our ego. So get over it right now, right here. You may think that you're a really good investor because the last 5 years you made a shit ton of money buying low, selling high. Mm-hmm. And you may think that you're pretty sharp and you may not need any help. And you may have this little bit of an ego going on. Look at me. I made 30 grand. I did 2 houses. I did 5 houses. I did this. Get over it. Because the environment made the money, not you. The market made the money, not you. Mm-hmm. Because when you're in a good market, like we have been for the last 5 years, especially since President Trump has been in office, like him, hate him, whatever, the market is up across America. Because I have coaching clients all the way to the West Coast.
You do?
I do.
You do?
Yeah. I have clients everywhere. The market
Mideast.
is up. Yeah. The market is
Midwest.
up. Yeah. Okay. So check your ego. Because when you're in a growing economy like we're in, it's not hard to have an emerging market in your area, right? To have an emerging market pop real quick because all of a sudden Ford decided they're going to build a factory, or Amazon, that's even better. That's a good one. Amazon decides they're going to have a distribution center in your town, and all of a sudden there's 800 jobs that are going to be available. And all of a sudden, your rent went from $875 to $1,075. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's not because you were clever and you made your apartment better, or it's not any of that. It was the environment. So check your ego at the door. Make sure that you're not your head is not full of, look at how smart I am. Because when you're really smart is when the market downturns. What do you do then?
Yeah.
That's when you know you can sustain your job and sustain your added value.
Yeah. Or see it coming and do it on purpose.
Right.
To quote Tom Petty, you got lucky, babe.
Right. So just make sure that when you're looking at added value, that is not, the added value is what you just said. You're looking at the environment. You're looking at the emerging markets. You're looking at where is it in the sales cycle? Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Which stage of a buyer's market? Which stage of a seller's market? All these things matter when you're buying a property.
And would you say it matters more the longer you hold the property?
Yes. That's a very good point, which I hadn't written down here. But when I used to buy and sell cars, because I used to buy and sell 75 cars a month myself, I would buy them from a dealer, sell them to a dealer, or I'd go to an auction, right? So I'd buy hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of cars in a month. And one of the things that I recognize is if you buy and sell within the market,
time-wise?
Yeah, within the market. I'm going to explain that in a minute. When you buy it within the market, then you do well. So if you have a car that's a fad, like I can't think of. I could think it's a Dodge station wagon. I forgot what it was called.
The Pacifica?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So you didn't think I'd know stuff like that, did you?
But there was it was like a fad for a while.
Yeah.
Right, where they put the wheels on them and they tinted the windows and all that kind of stuff.
So pimp them out.
Yeah. Sorry. So what you would do is you would watch. I would watch the market at the auction. And if last week they were selling for $8,000 and this week they're selling for $8,300, next week they're $8,900, right? And then all of a sudden you would get a week and you'd be like, wow, that thing sold awful cheap. It was like $7,800. That would be an indicator for me, right? That would be an indicator.
Yep.
So, by the way, that's what makes a good executive, by the way, is when he can see indicators early on and do something about it.
He can predict things coming.
Yeah, well, he sees an indicator and it triggers something in his mind, and he's like, oh, I better pay attention to that because that might be something new coming.
Good or bad, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Things to do, things to avoid.
Exactly. So that's what you're doing with a house.
Okay? So if you're buying and selling in the same time market, it doesn't matter too much, but the longer you hold, the more you want to see.
If you trade outside of one market or another, like when I'm buying and selling and the car's between $8,000 and $8,900, if I'm buying and selling, I know what that value is.
Yeah.
As soon as they start selling for $7,800, the market just changed.
Oh, okay.
So now it's a new market. So I can't take my $300 car and expect to get $8,900 because now they're selling for $7,800. So when you buy and trade in different markets, which is why what I'm telling you matters, because when you're buying cash, you're always going to buy and borrow money for a 12-month period, right? So that's within a market. Real estate tends to be between a 10 and 12-month market.
Yeah, it's not going to change overnight.
Yeah.
So
the fastest most people on an average will be between 6 and 8 months. Now, can you buy and sell within a month? Yes. When you're buying cash, Can you buy and sell within a couple months? We do. We do 3-4 months very often. But that's beating the average. The average is a 6 to 8 month period to buy, fix, and flip.
Right.
So that's a market. So now if you buy and you hold for a year and a half because you screwed up, or the contractor, or you don't know what you're doing, now you're in 2 different markets. That's where you get hurt.
Yeah.
Because the markets could change in a year and a half time considerably. Okay, good. Now let me catch up to my notes. So the main thing that we're doing here is we're talking about the house. We're not talking about the financing, right?
Right.
So you look at the added value, and there is actually a added value ladder. Okay.
Yeah.
So what that means is okay. So if I buy this house and I replace, let's talk about the deal. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Let's talk about the deal that we're looking at right now. We're in the middle of buying a deal right now, right?
Yes.
And we'll talk about that in a couple minutes. So, what is the added value to that house? First of all, the drug addict that lived there removed the bathroom. So there's no bathroom on the first floor.
But it's got a hole in the floor.
Right. So added value right there for us would be what? To put a bathroom in.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So obviously we bought at a deep discount. Well, 27 cents on a dollar.
Yeah, something like that. So no matter what we do, we're safe.
Right.
Somebody will want it.
So the added value is to put a bathroom in there. Okay. Now, the added value ladder could be something as simple as, well, because the bathroom's gutted, what if we put a jacuzzi in there? Right?
Yeah.
So when I talk about the added value ladder, so suppose to put the bathroom back together, it's, say, $2,500 because there's no walls, the sheetrock and all that.
Yeah.
Let's say it's $2,500.
Yeah.
And the hot tub or the jacuzzi costs $1,000. So now it's $3,500.
Yeah.
What will that do to the sale of the house?
Well, if that's something that people want, that's a great bonus.
Right.
How do we know that?
Right.
Because that was one of your questions, like, what do people really want?
Right. So the way you know that is to survey the neighborhood. What's in the neighborhood. I don't mean you go knocking on doors, but what's in the neighborhood. And you could do that when you're looking at your comps. Do the houses have jacuzzis in them?
Right.
A good example of that is I remember when I first started doing renovation, my acquisition manager will say, well, how do you know the house needs windows? When do you do windows? Because he's noticed some houses you do windows, some houses you don't. Oh, I'm like, I do the litmus test. He's like, what are you talking about? Come here, I'll show you. So we get out there, and I got my cigar going. We're in the house, and I'm like, you want me to show it to you? He says, yeah. And he's like, I'm busting his ass, So we go out to the front steps, out on the front stoop, and I got my cigar, and all smokes all over the place, like Cheech and Chong style. I said, look to the left. Chin was his name. Look to the right. Chin was his name. Good kid.
Bill and Chin.
He said, what am I looking at? I said, exactly. I'm dragging this on. I shouldn't be. I looked to the left. How many of the houses have vinyl windows? I looked to the right. How many of the houses have vinyl windows? If a majority of the houses in the neighborhood or on that street have vinyl windows, then I got to do vinyl windows. Because they're going to look and say, oh, well, my neighbor has vinyl windows. I want to be like the Joneses.
Yeah. How come I don't have vinyl windows? He has vinyl windows.
Right.
Right.
So if everybody on that street has, or all the comps you're looking at have a beautiful bathroom and a nice jacuzzi, then it might be worth it.
Right.
Right. If not, then why do that?
See, one of my questions is, and I think we get around it one way or the other, but I know you look at houses online, and it says, "Oh, you can add a bathroom for $7,000 and recoup about $5,000 when you sell it. You can put a kitchen in for $25,000 and recoup about $18,000 when you sell it." Well, wait a minute. Why would you put money in and get less back?
Right.
So I think we get around that because we use contractors that we make sure the price is right, so we don't pay more than we're going to get back.
Right.
So that's just something to consider. It's just
knowing the definition, we're way off topic now. We're blowing our time right now. But knowing the definition of wholesale and retail fixes that in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So the definition of wholesale is you buy a lot and sell them one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you buy 100 cars and you sell them to 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Retail is you buy one.
Yeah.
Right? So obviously when you buy at wholesale, you buy a lot, you sell them one at a time. You don't sell them to the end user. So when you're looking for contractors, you're looking for contractors that quote unquote want wholesale. Mm-hmm. So they're selling to you at a lower price because they're not going to just do one job for you.
Yeah. Also, since they're doing the whole house, they can discount it because you're doing the whole thing. A lot.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I don't have them. Like our kitchen guy doesn't do the whole house; he does just the kitchens.
Yeah.
The point is that I'm not giving him just one job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He's probably, if he sticks with me, he's probably going to get 4, 5, 10 jobs a year. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So he's not going to just get one job.
Right. So it behooves him to give you a decent price.
Right. Okay. So you just need to kind of like look for those kind of guys when you're doing contractors.
Mm-hmm.
Right. All right. So the added value ladder is important. And there's not like something that I'm going to draw up or anything like that. It's just something that you do throughout your whole process. Like the ladder is, if I go to the top rung and I spend all this money, what's it going to do?
Oh, yeah. So it's like the little bathroom job, the medium bathroom, the huge bath. It's a ladder of how much per room, and is it granite countertops or just the nice ones?
It's the rate of return. How much rate of return am I going to get? Now, the last thing I'm going to say before we get off this topic, because we can make a whole show just on that.
I think we have.
Yeah. So the point that I want to make here is that the added value is not always the physical money or the actual profit you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's the savings. Like, for example, I might put a jacuzzi in because nobody else on the street has one, and I'll put one in that bathroom because now instead of being on the average, if I know the average days on the market is 90 days, I might put it in and take my average days on the market to 31 days.
Sure.
So I save 2 months worth of holding costs by putting the jacuzzi in because nobody else has it.
And they want
it's a bad
faster sale.
But like the house we're looking at right now, one of the things, the house we're buying now, the house has a garage, and the garage is dilapidated. And at one point we talked about taking the garage down, and I said to you, no, we don't take the garage down because the amount of money it'll cost us to remove the garage and get rid of it, we could fix it. And if you look at the rest of the street, every house on the street has a garage. So if we become the house without a garage, it'll put more days on the market.
Yeah.
Somebody will buy it, but we have to adjust our price and more days on the market.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a decrease in value,
mm-hmm.
right? So when you're looking at the added value ladder, right, you're looking at selling quickly, adding value that will sell quickly and rate of return.
Right.
Right. So you don't want, like you said, you don't want to spend $25,000 on a kitchen and then get back $15,000. Right.
If you're the homeowner, it doesn't matter because you're living there. But when you're selling them,
And that's a big mistake because a lot of people will renovate like they're going to be the homeowner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Instead of what do they need and what they don't need. I mean, I've had a couple students that have done houses and aren't students anymore because they couldn't break them of the wife trying to make it look like one of the magazines.
Yeah.
Homeowners or whatever. What are some of those magazines?
House and
garden. Yeah.
Yeah. When I do a renovation, I mean, I want it to look really, really nice so it sells fast. But I'm cheap. I'm from
There's
the
a
school
perfect
of,
example. You do an amazing job of buying the right flowers and putting the garden beds in and making the lawn look good for like not a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
but it makes a tremendous curb appeal. Just by buying the right color mulch, like edging the garden beds. You'll go out and spend a little bit, you'll spend an afternoon edging the garden beds, or you place bushes that are not $300 bushes. They're $35 bushes, but they're just in the right place at the right time, and it's very aesthetic. Okay. Way too much time we spend on that. All right. So let's get back to selling a house. All right. If a house doesn't sell, Ron LeGrand, my mentor, one of my mentors, has a list of why they don't sell. Right. So here it is. We're not going to cover these because we're already 38 minutes into the show. We could get lost on this for another hour and a half. I'm just going to read the list, and then we're going to move on. So here's what I would do if I was a listener. This is recorded for you. It's live for us. So you should get a paper and pencil, because I'm not going to give these to you. You have to work for these, okay? Because I'm not going to give them to you. Get a paper and pencil and listen to this section of the podcast a couple times and write them down and put them somewhere where you can have them. So when you're selling a house, you can actually turn this into like a checklist.
Pause now.
Yes, exactly. Go get your paper and pencil. All right. Number 1, not ready to sell. Number 2.
The house isn't ready to sell.
Right.
Yeah, it's not prepared.
Right. Number 1, not ready to sell. Number 2, poor area. Number 3, overpriced. That to me is the number 1. That's the number 1. But he has it as number 3. 4, salesperson personality problems. Yeah, usually a realtor. 5, inflexibility of seller. 6, salesperson's lack of knowledge about available financing programs. I've had that happen quite a bit. 7, salesman's lack of knowledge about attracting and pre-screening leads. So I'll give that to you again. A salesman's lack of knowledge about attracting and pre-screening leads. In other words, does he know how to do marketing?
Sure.
Okay. 8, no follow-up system in place. So somebody comes in and looks at the house, he never talks to them again. Number 9, functional obsolescence. I call this a dysfunctional house. Okay, so that means that you got to walk through a bedroom to get to the kitchen.
Yep.
Or something like that. Number 10, house is very small. By the way, that's not a problem if you live in condos. If you're in condo city, that's not a problem. But if every house on the street is 1,500 square feet and yours is 8, then it's a problem.
Yeah, with two bedrooms.
Yeah. Number 10, house. I just did that. House is very small. Number 11, salesman losing control of the loan process. Number 12, house is too far from the city. I say the wrong location. We just talked about that a few minutes ago. So if you're paying attention to like our emerging markets and you understand the environment and with which the house sits in, it makes a big difference. And I'm going to go back to the research we're doing now. There's a lot of talk about jobs. Are jobs coming or are they going? And I could tell you right now, in a summary of this podcast of how much do I sell for, that's it right there. Are jobs coming or are they going? And if you call who do you call in the town hall? We have a
economic development
department. Economic development department. Ask them what they're planning to do with that section of town, and if they're looking to. And don't go by what they say. Go by what money is allocated. So if they say they're going to redevelop an area and it hasn't happened and not many people know about it, get in there. Okay. So house too far from the city, I say wrong location. And the reason why we talk about emerging markets is because, there's developments and maybe, somebody's buying a tract of land, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Yeah, you could be the next town over from a really busy place, and that would be a great place for people to live.
Right.
It's right close by, but it's not in the middle of all the mess.
Right.
But the next town over, 10 miles.
It's a new up and coming suburb.
Yep.
Yeah. 13, house in price range too high for most buyers. In other words, we run into this a lot of times with the big houses. They think that because a house 6 blocks away sold for $1 million, all of a sudden their house is worth $1 million, but it's not. Okay, or vice versa. Okay, more often than not, what happens is we end up with the Taj Mahal in the middle of a neighborhood where all the other houses are selling for $250 and they want $400 because it's like a 6,000 square foot house.
Yep.
Right. Number 14, only one bath. I personally say not enough bedrooms because we don't do a lot of 2 bedrooms. I like to make sure we're at least 3 bedrooms. But he says, Ron LeGrand says, only one bath. Okay. Now, I have done many deals where you're forced to sell just the house. Okay. Your buyer you're forcing your buyer to go into the real estate mafia. That's what you're doing. When you're selling for cash, you're forcing your buyer to go into the real estate mafia. And if you want to know what that means, go listen to episode number 90. We talk about the real estate mafia all the time. That's where you get the realtor and the banker and the lawyer and all that stuff involved. The system, right? You're forcing them to go into the real estate mafia. So go listen to episode number 90 and you'll get full disclosure on that. All right. When you do this, you have to be forced when you're buying to do good comps, which is what most people worry about. So I'm going to do this like rat-a-tat-tat. This is not what this show is about because people are going to be like, well, how do you do good comps? Because I'll get support tickets on. So I'm just going to cover it. Okay. What I do when I'm going to look at a house is I type the address into Google. 123 Main Street, Wallingford, Connecticut. Okay. With that, the search engine result page, otherwise known as the SERP page, the search engine result page that Google will give you, right? Which is what we're all used to seeing. We'll have Trulia, we'll have RealQuest, we'll have Zillow, have all those Realtor.com, have all those on there. What I do is I go open every one of them and I average what the house will be worth. I do that at the first appointment when I'm going to look at the house. All I want is a ballpark. When I make the deal and I'm actually ready to go to contract, I'll go to my realtor. And say, give me comps. The reason why is because more than likely I'm going to give that realtor the house once I'm done renovating it. Or if it's an MLS deal, I'm going to have them get involved. Okay. If you're nervous about that loose, type it into Google and see what happens, go to this website. You go to realestateabc.com. Realestateabc.com. And there's a section on that site that will give you good comps. The good thing about realestateabc.com is when you scroll down on the comp page, because the first thing they're going to show you is a Zillow comp. But you got to scroll down about halfway down the page. There's actually an online spreadsheet that you can sort the data with. So if you want to get like the house closest to your neighborhood, it'll raise all those. The closest to your address, it'll raise all those to the top of the spreadsheet. If you want like 2 bathrooms, 1 bedrooms, it'll raise that to the, so you can adjust just like a spreadsheet. You can adjust the sorting of the list that they're using for comps.
Sometimes you get a house 100 years old. Go, let's see how other 100-year-old houses are.
Right.
But what I like about that is that box is the houses that sold.
Right.
Those are the actual prices that recently sold. Make sure you got the recent ones. You'll see what they're actually selling for.
Right.
Not listing or asking.
So we're 47, I can't say 46 or 48 minutes in, and I'm getting gypped.
What's the matter,
I'm
Bill?
getting gypped because I want to go on to Bill's Planet now. Because this is what I would prefer the whole show to be about, is what we're going to talk about now. But that's not the case. So we're going to go over 60 minutes, not much, but we're going to go over 60 minutes today because I think this is a very valuable thing to talk about, is how much to sell your property for, or how much do I sell for. And this is the other half. Okay. This is the flip side of flipping that nobody talks about. Okay. And what we do, we got 150 shows on it, but we're the only ones, you and I, Peter, are the only ones that have 152 shows talking about the same topic, and that's creative financing. It's just you and I. There's no commercials. There's no guest speakers. There's not, and we had Ben Seidel on because he's just one of my idols, right? But other than that, and
But
we had
it's
a
still
couple
on
of students
topic, though.
on.
But it's still totally on
It's
how this
on
gets done.
creative financing. So we're the only podcast in America that has done this. So I'm proud of that. How about you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were doing that.
Well, we didn't know we were doing that when we started, but that's what's happened. There's 152 shows.
Decades ago, I buy these books, How to Buy Real Estate Without Money, because I didn't have any. And most people doing this don't have bags full of money, else they wouldn't be bothering to do this. Just go enjoy their bags. So we need good creative finance ways to do this, John.
Right. And that's all we talk about.
Yep.
That's all we talk about. Mm-hmm. All right. So now let's get on to Bill's Planet. Dun, dun, dun,
Everybody hold on to your seats.
Dun, 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 dun.
Strap in.
I get to take my cape off and just be me now.
You're going to put your cape on.
Oh, yeah. All right. So now I'm going to just read what I wrote. Now let's go on to Planet Bill and work on some tested and proven scientific evidence to avoid all the common mistakes most worry about when selling a house. This is more important than the first section. So the first section, we were talking about buying and selling the house, not the financing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So number 2, you got a terms deal, and now you're paying monthly until you can get the puppy paid off.
Yep.
So first thing is we need to cover is who's paying monthly until it's paid off. So who is that?
Well, it should be the owner of the house.
Okay.
It's their house.
Which is who?
The seller.
Okay. Good. So we buy a house, and we got a 24-month term. Who's paying the 24 months?
Well, the 24 months, if it's on a lease,
Yeah.
well, the buyer is.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So
we're just getting the first couple months from the seller.
I would thought you would have spit that right out, but okay. I wrote here, Pete will say the tenants.
You did not.
I did. It's right there. See it?
Well, you don't show me the script. But I'm going to say when we first get it, for a couple months, the seller's covering it.
We're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay.
Okay.
So
Point is, we're not.
right. So when a realtor sells a house, just what you were talking about, right? Do they put their own money into the deal?
No.
Do they pay for the expenses for 4 months while they're marketing the house?
It's not their house. It's your house. You pay for it.
Okay, so then why are you considering this? Why are you considering paying the payments? Why is this an issue for you? Why do we even have to talk about this on this podcast? Why do I have to waste my time telling you this? Because they don't do it. Why should you?
Yeah. In the initial period when we're selling it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you buy a house, you make an agreement with somebody, and they say, yes, I will do blah, blah, blah. Make sure it's all in writing. It's not true unless it's in writing. So you fill out an option agreement, and if you need to know what an option agreement is, go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff, or go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. Top right link, there's a link there that says free stuff.
Yep.
Okay. So go there and you'll figure out what an option is. But an option agreement is basically a verbal agreement that we put in writing saying that if I bring you blah, $150,000, whatever the number is, within a 90-day period or a 24-month period or a 6-year period, you'll sell to me, basically. Okay? So here's why. Here's why you're considering it. You're not using the value ladder, the added value ladder we spoke of earlier. See, in number 1, the value added that you brought
was the property.
The
renovating
I lost
property.
my train of thought. Yeah, so,
Yeah, well,
so it's the actual
case
physical
1, buying
property.
a house, renovating it, selling it. You made the house better, so it's
here's
worth
my
more.
popsicle. Do you want it?
Yeah.
Right. Here's my my bottle of water. Do you want it? Okay. In this particular case, our value added is no bank qualifying or owner financing.
Rent to own.
Right? That's our value added. By the way, 80% of your buyers are not able to qualify for one of the houses you're selling when we were selling them in number 1 that we were talking about earlier.
Using the system.
So 81% of them are not qualified. So that leaves 19% that are. So it's a smaller pool of people. And because they had the money, they're a little bit more cockier and they want a better house because they watched on A&E. They flipped this house and they got granite tops and they got, nice floors. And that's what they're looking for.
And they're giving you a big bag of cash from the bank.
Right. And you should bow down to their feet because the guy with the gold makes the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In this case, you eliminate all of that. All of that is gone. So the added value is pay me monthly until we can get you qualified and I'll get you a loan. That's the value added.
It's more like we have the bag of gold. Like, it's a golden opportunity.
That's right.
For somebody who can't buy a house and wants to.
That's exactly right.
It's more like we're holding the chips.
So
they're not going to complain about the bathroom isn't beautiful.
Well, to my point, you have a big pool of buyers literally chasing you to sell to them, and they're pitching you to sell to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're like selling you on selling to them. Whole different way of doing business than the first way.
But isn't it funny when a lot of those people didn't know they could do it?
Right.
They don't know about it. And they find out, like, I could buy the house, like, on terms and then pay later. And, like,
okay, so
their eyes bug out of their heads. Honey, we could buy this.
That's right. By the way, will this seller, one, be so picky about the price?
The seller? The buyer?
Did I say seller?
Yeah.
Well, no.
So this guy coming in.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't. So
no.
Will this buyer be so picky about the price?
No. This person is renting. Right. And if he can make the monthly payment and the down payment, he's in.
All right. So is this buyer going to be so picky about the repairs?
He got a house.
And
honey, we got a house.
What about the location? Will he be so picky about the location?
Honey, we got a house. We can drive to our jobs.
Will they want the best of everything because they're laying out hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars?
No, they're getting a house for a little down payment, less than the 20% of a bank, right, or 3 or whatever it is.
And will they be flexible because you've given them an opportunity to do what nobody else in town is doing?
And they might have just realized this could happen about 2 weeks ago or a day earlier. Like, we can buy this?
Right.
They haven't had time to get cocky.
Right. So that brings us to the price. If I were to sell my laptop to you today, Peter, for $1,000 and you gave me $1,000 cash, which would be a deal because that laptop over there cost us $2,800.
I'll take it.
It's an Apple.
I'll take it.
Okay. If I were to sell you this laptop over here for $1,000 and you paid me $1,000 in cash, how much did you pay for the computer?
$1,000. But that's because it's got a bite taken out of it.
The Apple, yeah.
Discounted to $1,000 today only.
If I were to sell you that same computer for $1,000 and you put it on your credit card and took 24 months to pay for it, how much would you pay for that $1,000 computer?
Yeah, like another $100 or $200 in interest.
It's going to be more than $1,000, right?
Sure. For the privilege of having it now when I don't have the money, but you let me take it, I'll give you extra for the opportunity.
Right. So
or the bank or the credit card.
That's exactly what we're doing with real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which means you can stretch your selling price by 10 to 15% higher than everything else on the market and have people begging you to take it.
Mm-hmm.
And not worry about all the minuscule, like the screen's got a rip in it and the lath on the porch railing is 9 inches instead of 6 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And the basement's not fully renovated like you wanted, or the refrigerator's not brand new, or the kitchen counters are not the right color, or they're not granite.
Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't put you through that entire mafia system.
Right.
It's just you and them.
Right. So if you make a mistake when you're buying, would you be so worried now?
No, you got
Forget about the fact that you have no money in this house. Forget about the fact that there's no risk. You didn't put up hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy this house. Forget about all that. Forget about that. I'm not even talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you made a mistake on the price and you had terms where you could pay monthly, which, by the way, you're not paying monthly. The buyer's paying monthly, right? Would you be so worried if you can get 10 to 15% above market value on what everybody else is asking for a house that's not fully up to par? And I have to tell you something. You know this because you're living it with me.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's
15 years I've been buying and selling houses and renovating them. And this past year, I have sold more houses on a handyman special than ever before. We don't fix them anymore. In fact, we got a house right now that needs a $50,000 renovation.
Yeah.
We're gonna do what we call prehabbing it.
Yeah.
We're gonna go in and just clean it up and get it ready for the rehabber to come in, so they could at least not have to clean it up.
Yeah, starting point.
Yeah. So that we could maybe find a homeowner that is a contractor that would possibly do it themselves at a deep discount.
Well, people see it on the shows all the time. I want to do it my way.
Right.
I know people buy the house and they're not happy with it the way they did it, so do it yourself then.
Right.
But by the way, in case anybody's worried that the buyer will say, well, how come you're selling to me for so much more than what it's actually worth? I don't think that's happened very often, but the time that somebody might have asked you that, I've heard you say, well, I can give you to that price. You have to pay me now, though. Yeah,
so first of all, what you just said never happens.
Mm-hmm.
But occasionally somebody will say, well, you're asking, $229, will you take $215?
Mm-hmm. I love your answer. Yeah.
Occasionally. And my answer is very direct, very, very direct. I'm like, absolutely. That means we can close in the next 30 days, right?
Yeah.
And they say no. I say, well, then the price is $229.
Yeah.
And it's only happened less than 3 or 4 times to me in my career.
Mm-hmm. That's an okay
just some
question.
Smart ass that's just like, and I get it.
Yeah, sure. If you can pay for it in 30 days.
By the way, the few times that it did happen, I didn't sell that person the house because they ended up having other deeper problems and they didn't make it.
Yeah, they're not motivated. You know what?
Kind of
they're not motivated enough, are they?
Yeah.
They're not grateful enough for the opportunity, and then they're stuck in their rental.
So the magic formula of selling a house is to put it in the right bucket when you buy it. So bucket number 1 is you get a deep discount and you add value to the house and sell just below market value. So you have a pretty house just under market value.
Makes it the deal in town.
The house is worth $200,000. You have it completely renovated, and you could sell it for $195 or $190 and still make money.
And you bought it right, and you renovated it right, so there's plenty of room for profit. But it'll go fast, and people will be really happy with the nicest house for a little less.
And if you think that you can't make money with those houses, and you think that you can't buy those houses because your area is appreciating too much, and you can't find those houses, it's because you're looking for the people the wrong way. You're probably looking on the MLS. You're probably dealing with banks because you think banks don't know all this. You think banks haven't figured out what we figured out. You don't think that they aren't selling us and making us compete with one another. They love when there's a competition on a house and there's bidding war. Everybody loves that, right? So the point is that you're just not, you don't have a good deal hunting machine set up. You haven't, gotten my materials or listened to our podcast, or you haven't set it up, whatever the reason is, because I'm going to tell you by far, absolutely 1,000% certainty that the way to buy houses is to do direct mail or talk to the owners yourself directly. And if you're not doing that, you're leaving a shit ton of money on the table.
So much that you can't buy the house too many times.
Right.
No deal.
So the magic formula of selling a house is to put it in the right bucket when you buy it. So the first bucket is get a deep discount and add value to the house, not the deal.
The physical house.
And sell it below market value so you have a pretty house just under market value. Okay. The second way is to get terms, which means you pay monthly or your buyer pays monthly, and you pay it off when the buyer qualifies.
And gets the mortgage from the bank, and pays it all off.
Which, by the way, when we say rent to own, we're not renting to a tenant. We're renting to an owner. So they do all the maintenance. They plow the sides of the driveways. They cut this. They plow the snow. They cut the grass. They do all the maintenance. They put the battery detectors. The batteries in the battery smoke detectors. All that stuff. And it's all in the lease. It's all in the rental agreement that they own the house. You're just an intermediate bank to get them from where they are to a mortgage. And they've only got 2 years to do that. And you're going to help them, which, by the way, who's going to help them really?
What's a credit bureau?
Yeah,
or
you're a mortgage broker or a credit bureau. You're going to turn them on to the right people, and you're not going to do that. They're actually you're going to get people to do that get paid commission on that.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a value. There's value to them because they're going to get paid.
They got an incentive to get the job done.
Right. So you have to realize that if you break it down to the simplicities that we've talked about here, each bucket has their own rules and their own playing field. It's not only just rules. It's like the difference between baseball and football.
Mm-hmm.
They both have fields, but one is much different than the other.
Yep.
Okay, so they have their own playing fields, their own rules, and once you understand this, you'll never be stuck without any information, and get stuck without having to sell a house quickly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me read this here. Once you understand this, you will never be stuck without proven information. Couldn't read my own writing. And get stuck without a house you can't sell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you do this correctly, and it's not hard. There's not like some special way. Just do what we're talking about on this podcast. First thing is put them in the bucket. Second thing is do some of if you're going to buy a house for a deep discount, do some environmental type of investigation. Are there jobs coming in or are they going out? Is there money coming in? Is there money going out of the area? So you know whether it's an emerging market or a declining market. Then you'll know a lot.
Mm.
Okay. By the way, if everybody's trying to buy in that area, it's too late.
Mm.
It's too late because when everybody knows, it's too late.
Yep.
Okay, it's like a stock. If everybody's buying a stock because it's on TV, it's too late.
The
money's already been made.
Do not follow the crowd.
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw one this morning, Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
Don't listen to the experts. Like the bank tells you what to do. Well, that's going to be good for the bank.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Somebody says you should do this. Well, that's going to be good for him.
Right.
Find out yourself.
Right. So I think we've done a good job today of telling our listeners how much to sell for.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it was kind of like a backdoor way of doing this, but if you understand the things that we're talking about today, you know what to sell for. So you can go do your comps and you can know what your added value. All these variables are what you can sell for, what we talked about today.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have an interesting proposition for the people that made it all the way to the end of this show. Notice I didn't talk about it at the beginning of the show.
That's right. You got to earn it, right?
Yeah.
This is for the faithful.
If you go do a review for me, good or bad, just do a review. And I honestly don't care if it's good or bad.
Has to be honest, though.
I want to give you an ethical bribe.
Mm.
Okay? I have published, but have not told anybody or sold to anybody. It just got put on Amazon last week. A book that I wrote, another book. This is my second one this year,
mm-hmm.
on how do I know I'm paying a fair price for investment property?
Oh, that sounds important.
How do I know I'm paying a fair price for investment property? If you go give me a review, either on your platform or I prefer it to be on iTunes. That's where I want my reviews, is on iTunes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, you go to the top right-hand side and click on podcast, or just do flippinghousesforrookies.com/podcast. On the right side, there's a link there that says give a review on iTunes. Okay? I will, and then once you do that, send me a support ticket, which is flippinghousesforrookies.com/support,
mm-hmm.
or go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. Top right-hand side says contact us. Send me a support ticket, and I want to go read your review. All I want to know is where it is. So if it's on some platform that's not iTunes, then you need to guide me to where it is so I can see that it's there.
Mm-hmm.
I want physical evidence, and I don't care if it's good or bad. Doesn't matter. Give me your name and address, and I will mail you a copy of the book for free.
Get out of here.
Yeah. No shipping costs. No. We're selling it on Amazon for $20, the book.
Mm-hmm.
So I will not only pay the $20 for the book, but I'll pay for the shipping too. So if you listen to this podcast and you go get, or any of our other podcasts, and you feel like we deserve a review, good or bad, I will ship you the book for free.
It's a great deal.
And the book is called How Do I Know I'm Paying a Fair Price for Investment Property?
It's funny, that fits the show, though you might think it's the opposite, because you make your money, how many times has it been said, when you buy?
Right.
If you buy good enough, the selling part isn't that hard. If you buy bad, you're screwed.
So you make all your money when you're buying real estate. You collect it when you're selling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. So I think we've covered everything today. I think that we have definitely covered how much do I sell my house for. And I hope you enjoyed the show. And we're over and out.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.